This episode is brought to you in part by the American Homebrewers Association, a network of more than 40,000 people dedicated to the appreciation of beer, cider, and mead. Join the AHA for just $3.99 a month at homebrewersassociation.org. That's homebrewersassociation.org. Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, November 12th, 2020. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, homebrewer Bruce Hanley shares some Tej, a mead based on a traditional Ethiopian recipe. If you go to basicbrewing.com, you can find archives of our audio and video shows. If you go to basicbrewingshop.com, you can find our DVDs and our brewer's logbooks. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Basic Brewing and find our show page on Facebook as well. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing. And thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. This Friday, I'm planning to post the Basic Brewing video episode to the general public about my dark Dampf beer. Financial supporters have already seen it. That's a beer that has conditioned very well in the keg over the past few weeks. Oftentimes with hoppy beers, I want to drink them fresh while those volatile hop compounds are still around. And sometimes I'm in too much of a hurry to drink other styles that would benefit from some patience. And this beer is an example of that. This Dampf beer was good in the beginning, and as it's matured, the flavors are becoming more distinct. The yeast character's shining through more, and I'm getting more clove, a little more, maybe a little bit more banana, and the malt flavors are becoming more complex. It was a simple beer to brew, but it's turning out to be a fun multi-layer beer. I sampled another beer that I'm afraid might be past its peak a few days ago. I posted a picture of the bottle on Instagram. Back in 2017, Steve Wilkes of stevesbrewshop.com and I took part in a collaborative bourbon barrel Russian Imperial Stout. The last time I tasted it was at an open house at Steve's shop the end of last year, and man, was it good at that time. The bottle I opened a few days ago was not as good, maybe, but not as good as I remembered, but it was still pretty good. The beer seemed thinner and not as rich, maybe, more boozy. And at 13% ABV, maybe that shouldn't be a surprise, but it's less balanced than it once was. So aging beers is sometimes a crapshoot, and you have to drink them before that quality curve starts back down. But maybe I'm wrong. I've got some more bottles in the basement that I'll probably share over the holidays. You've heard on this show that we're building a recipe section on basicbrewing.com, thanks to the help of our friends and sponsors at Imperial Organic Yeast. The latest recipe on our fledgling site is from Chris Toscano of Imperial's customer service team. It's called Palaver Porter. Apparently, palaver is Scottish for unnecessarily complex or elaborate. Chris calls his recipe that because it has 7 different malts in it. I think the recipe looks delicious. Pilsner, Victory, Vienna, Cara Crystal, Wheat, Carafa, 1, Cara Hell, and flaked barley. Sounds perfect for cooler weather. Chris recommends Imperial A31 Tartan to brew this beer. Tartan accentuates the malt flavor of the beer, but it can also be used in other styles like IPAs. You can find that recipe and others at basicbrewing.com/recipes. You know we love Imperial Organic Yeast with a pitch rate of 200 billion cells in each easy-to-open package. I like to say my stir plate is dusty because I don't use it anymore to make starters for moderate gravity 5-gallon batches. And thanks to work by Chris and others on his team, Imperial has top-notch customer service and technical support. Ask your local homebrew shop about Imperial Organic Yeast and check them out at imperialyeast.com. It's imperialyeast.com. And check out those recipes at basicbrewing.com/recipes. So many URLs flying around in my brain. I'm in the midst of making a dry hopped mead using local honey from Caleb Hutcherson, whom you've heard on this show. I pitched the seasonal yeast Bubbles from Imperial a while back. A couple of days ago, I checked the gravity, and it's at 0.998, so I bagged up an ounce of, or 28 grams of Galaxy hops, and I plan to check it again today. The flavor of that mead before adding the hops was amazing, and I hope the hops are complementary to it. I'm fermenting in a Mr. Beer fermenter because the batch is less than 2 gallons, and the wide lid and the spigot make it handy and easy to do things like this. Not a plug for Mr. Beer, but it is a fun fermenter. And if you keep your eyes open after Christmas, you might get one on sale or at yard sales during the year. Speaking of Christmas, you can start your Christmas list now for yourself at HighGravityBrew.com. Our sponsors, Desiree and Dave of High Gravity in Tulsa, are the electric brewing experts, and a shiny new Warthog electric system sure would look nice under your tree. If you go to the Build Your Own Brewing System page on HighGravityBrew.com, you can spec out your dream electric setup. I myself have a single vessel 240-volt Warthog system, brew in a bag, but you can do 1, 2, or 3 vessel systems from 5 gallons to 2 barrels. Or, if you're like me and want to select a turnkey system that's already put together, you can do that too. HighGravityBrew.com also has electric gear from other manufacturers if you plan to go that way. A Warthog system from HighGravityBrew.com will take the pain out of propane, and if you use the code EBC75BB, you can save $75 off your electric gear purchase. High Gravity also has gift certificates available to make your holiday shopping easier. Make it easy on Santa. That's all at family-owned and operated HighGravityBrew.com. I love mead, and I love tasting things that I haven't experienced before, so it was a lot of fun to talk to Bruce Hanley about Tej. Bruce Hanley, welcome to Basic Brewing Radio.
Hello.
Where are you at?
I'm in Bethesda, Maryland.
Is it getting cold out there yet?
We started off the day at 39 degrees this morning.
Oh, well, that's about like we had frost, but then we're going to have 70 degrees by the end of the week. So my sinuses are bound to be all out of whack. You've sent me a fun bottle of something that I've never had before. But before we talk about that, I want to get some background on you as a brewer. How long have you been brewing, and what got you into it?
Well, I think I started brewing somewhere in the early 90s. I have 3 children, and I think my youngest was just born, and somewhere I saw the Charlie Papazian Complete Joy of Brewing, home brewing, and it got me interested. And so I went out and bought a couple glass carboys, found a kit to make a pale ale, and when I finished, I convinced myself that it tasted just like a Bass, which at the time was my favorite beer.
Was that what you were shooting for?
That's what I was shooting for, and subsequently I found that my initial thoughts were a little in error.
Did somebody tell you, or did you just?
No, my taste buds finally responded to the flavors that were actually there.
Well, I started brewing 96 or 7, and I'd had a couple of Guinnesses by then, but most of what I drank was like Budweiser, so. My taste buds, I'm sure, were not anywhere near attuned, as they were supposed to be or needed to be. So I told myself at that time I was making good beer as well. So thank goodness those beers aren't around anymore, and we can't visit them and and see if they were really good or not. But nowadays, homebrewers, they've got access to all these good beers, and so they actually know what good beer tastes like. So, if their first batches aren't good, they know.
Well, and thanks to folks like yourself, a lot of us homebrewers have information about the process that's much more on point than ever before. And I think I started listening to your podcast when it came out, and some of those early shows that you did about sanitation and different yeasts, they were invaluable. I really appreciate all the work that you and Steve and all the early folks in your podcast have done for the brewing community.
Wow. Well, thanks. We've certainly learned a lot along the way as well. We were pretty wet behind the ears back then. we brewed a few batches of extract beer, so we were experts. And once you start talking to other people, you find out maybe you don't know as much as you thought you did. So, what do you like to brew nowadays?
I'm definitely an IPA fan, and I'm always trying to get that IPA that doesn't have any off flavors in it. And it's so easy to allow them to creep in that it's a challenge.
And we were talking before we started recording, you're 40 minutes away or 40 miles away from our friends at Sapwood Cellars. So you get to benchmark with some good ones.
Absolutely. And, they do make some remarkable beers, whether it's a sour or some of the ones with the newer hops, and my belief is that they make great beers, but they're not overstated. Mm-hmm. They're really very balanced and easy to drink.
Well, I'm jealous. I keep thinking that one day we'll have another opportunity to go out and sample some of Mike and Scott's wares, and that's a goal of mine. So what you sent us is Tej. Do you say Tej or Tej?
I think it's Tej, but I'm not sure. I'm not. I told you that the way that I became acquainted with it was I had read a book about it a long time ago. It was a novel by an author named George MacDonald Fraser, and he wrote something called the Flashman Papers. Flashman on the March was the one that was about Abyssinia, Ethiopia, and it introduced me to the thought of Tej, fermented honey. And I think that book came out in about 2005. And finally, in 2019, I saw a recipe in Zymergy and decided, hey, that's for me. I got to give it a try.
Yeah, you sent me the article, and it was from the September-October 2019 issue, and David Schmidt was the author. And it's a really good article. If you've got a membership to the AHA, you should go out there and find it online. It's really a well-written travel log of a piece, and he talks not only about Tej but of Tala as well, which sounds like some sort of a braggot.
That was my thought as well. I had saved some of the gesho to brew some Tala, and I haven't gotten to that yet. But I'm hoping that I haven't allowed it to lose its ability to bitter the beer that is made of it, or the braggot. But I'm going to give it a shot here in the not too distant future.
Do you have a lot of experience with meads?
No, I've brewed a couple, and I think probably like most people, my first attempt at a mead was not all that terrific. I brewed one that was sort of an orange spice mead, and it was very high starting gravity, and I didn't worry about temperature control, and maybe my yeast nutrient wasn't quite up to par, and I wasn't stirring it every single day, so it turned out to be somewhat like rocket fuel when I first tasted it. I think the fusels kind of overpowered the final product, but I put it in a keg, and I left it, and I think it took about 2 years before it had settled down and became something that was somewhat drinkable. Even though in order to get it that way, I probably had to back sweeten it a little bit and take a little more care of it at that point.
It's hard to give up on something like that, especially something like mead, which can be expensive if you brew a big batch of it. Honey's not cheap.
Well, I had seen some folks that said, just give it time and it will have a chance to maybe repair itself a bit. And I wasn't sure what would happen, but I was happy to see that it made itself somewhat drinkable.
Now you sent a bottle of the Tej, and this may count as an experiment as well as just a feature show, because you brewed this. It looks like you bottled it on December 8th of last year. With the ABV of 11%. So I took it later on after we talk about your process. I can play a tasting where I took it over to stevesbrewshop.com and had him sample some. And I've got some in front of me right now, so it'll be interesting to compare my tasting notes right now to the tasting notes from the other day, what I remember, and then to talk about what you thought it tasted like in the very beginning. So
I had another bottle of it as well here, and so I poured a little bit to taste it to see what it tasted like to me in the interim. I think immediately after I finished it and bottled it, I had a taste of it, and it tasted very crisp and clean. Then even just a few days after that, it sort of became to me a little bit muddled or muddy, not quite as clean as it was after the first taste. And before I sent it to you, the same friend that I talked to you about earlier had told me that his Scotch tasting group had tasted the Tej, and they all enjoyed it quite a bit. So that's why I thought maybe it would be something that you would potentially enjoy tasting.
Well, no spoilers on on our tasting notes, but that's a nod to the future there. So talk about your process. Talk about your recipe.
I used the Zymergy recipe as a template, and then I just increased it a little bit because I wanted to make a little bit more. They said it would make about 1.3 gallons, and so I used 8 pounds of honey, and then I mixed it with about 2 gallons of reverse osmosis water, and then I used the gesho comes in sort of two forms. You can find one is the leaves from the particular plant or bush or whatever. I'm not sure how it grows. I think it's a bush or sticks. And so
Now,
I had ordered.
just for background, for those who haven't read the article, this gesho is I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it's also known as shiny leaf buckthorn, and it's apparently a bush that people use to make this the tej and this tala, and is it more of a just a flavoring agent or more of a bittering agent? What kind of character do you get?
I think it's sort of a replacement for hops
Hmm.
in the process, but it's not. I don't think it's super bitter. That doesn't. I think it's more of a flavoring thing to me, but it's definitely a replacement for the hops. And
Now, where did you get this gesho?
just online, Amazon has a connection with a company that takes care of that from the West Coast, I think, and they had it in little Ziploc bags that came from this company, and some were leaves, some were the twigs, and so I took half of the twigs and then a bag of the leaves, put them in a hop bag, and boiled them just a little bit to make sure that if there were anything that could potentially infect the brew, that I would kill it. But I only did it for about 3 minutes or so because I didn't want to take away the potential of the flavor.
Right.
And so then I took it out, let it cool off, set it aside, and then I put it in the initial brew was the mix of the honey, the water, a half a teaspoon of wine nutrient, and I used Lallemand, the Dry 97 yeast. I think it's now called, what is it, BR97? Something like that.
I want to make a BR549 joke here, but Steve's not here.
and I put that in a bucket, and then on a daily basis, I opened the bucket and made sure I stirred it, so that I wouldn't have the same fusel disaster.
Hmm. And did you give any more nutrients, or was that enough in the beginning?
That was enough in the beginning. I didn't do any staggered nutrient additions, and I have an area in the house that stays relatively cool. And so I wasn't too worried that it was going to overheat and cause some problems damaging the yeast that way.
Did you happen to taste the water that you had boiled the gesho into?
No, I didn't. I just kind of chucked that.
I think I would have taken at least a little spoonful or something just for curiosity's sake. But was there any kind of aroma or anything like that?
You could definitely smell that it had something that it was going to impart to it, kind of like hops. If you were to smell hops, that you would know that it's going to provide some flavoring.
Mm-hmm. And how long did fermentation last, and what were your steps after that?
I think it only when I finally took a final gravity of it was just about a month later. I started in November and ended in December, and when I look at the final gravity, it had fermented out to pretty much exactly the same final gravity as the recipe in Zymergy had recommended or had achieved.
On the tag here, it says original gravity 1114, final gravity 1030 for an ABV of 11.03%. And it's strong, but it's not overpowering. How did it taste in the beginning?
I just think it was it tasted sweet but clean, and the gesho flavoring it kind of took the edge off of it, so that you would think if something ends at a 1030 that it might be a little bit cloyingly sweet, and it was definitely not that. I didn't feel like it was something that was undrinkable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not syrupy. Of course, I'm getting ahead of myself here. And you said you had someone who knew someone from Ethiopia, and you were able to share it with them.
I have. I'm a dentist, so I have a few patients that are Ethiopian, and I thought, well, gee, this is maybe a way to test and see if I could brew something that maybe somebody else might like or think was close to the original. But as we all do, there's a little bit of risk in that. So I gave it to them thinking, well, maybe they could tell me it's awful or it's close. And so I just recently saw that same person, and she said, I really I wanted to try what you gave me, but I gave it to my aunt, and she wouldn't give it back. She said, this tastes just like what it's supposed to, and I can't believe that somebody who was not Ethiopian brewed it.
Well, there you go. Did we? I can't remember. Did we cover what kind of honey it was?
It was just a generic honey from the local warehouse store.
Okay. Let's take a quick break from talking to Bruce about mead for some mead-related news. Our friends and sponsors Ricky and Kelly from Groenfell Meadery in Vermont are filling bottles this week of the Groenfell Ancient Collection. You know Groenfell for their deliciously drinkable, moderate-gravity craft meads. This Ancient Collection is something very different and very special. It's a 3-mead set in collectible ceramic bottles, 750-milliliter ceramic bottles. These are a departure for Groenfell. They're stronger and sweeter than the usually dry Groenfell meads, and they range from 15.1% alcohol to 19.2%. There's Bragg Eye, which is honey, black currants, elderflowers, rose hips, and a touch of juniper berry. Hegir, which is European cherries blended with wildflower honey aged on cherry wood. And Veneer, which is wildflower honey fermented on 3 European strains of yeast aged on carved ash wood and oak. You can pre-order your Ancient Collection from Groenfell.com. Ricky and Kelly expect to ship starting November 16th, so sign up for yours today. Sounds amazing. Find out all the details and order yours at Groenfell.com. That's Groennfell. Shall we go into the tasting with Steve?
Sure.
I have to preface that I sent you wrote a fairly detailed note on your process and everything, and I sent it over to Steve, but Steve's got a lot going on nowadays. Didn't read it, I think. So when I walked into his store, I guess I didn't. He wasn't briefed as much as he should have been on what he was drinking. So he sounds kind of clueless.
Well, I appreciate that you guys gave it a taste and took the time to go ahead and evaluate it, and I do appreciate it, because I like that you have been doing this for a long time, and appreciate all that you guys do.
Well, we definitely appreciated you sending it. So let's go back in time to the back room of stevesbrewshop.com and have a very confusing tasting. Steve Wilkes, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thanks, James.
We're here in the back of your homebrew shop, and I can barely see you. You're so far away.
We are truly social distanced.
That's right, and I'm not going to be here long, so I'm going to run away as soon as we do this. But we have here a special thing. It gets harder all the time for us to get something that we haven't had before.
Yes,
but, people keep sending them stuff. So
that Peruvian beaver cheese.
I like the Wensleydale.
Yeah.
Bruce Hanley sent us this Tej, which is an Ethiopian mead, and it's got. I looked up he sent an article from Zymergy and then his methodology, and it's got this gesho, and it's got both the sticks and the leaves. The dried leaves from this gesho, which I looked it up in Wikipedia, and it's a shiny leaf buckthorn. So, and it's been in the bottle for about a year. And 11% alcohol. So this is the first time we've tried this. The honey comes through very nicely.
Yeah, it does.
There's kind of a caramely note to it, which may be because of the age on my palate.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, might be a little oxidized. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm getting a whole lot of shiny leaf buckthorn.
It's certainly more than I've ever had.
Well, I got a 50-pound bag of it back here.
Oh.
If you want to add it to
here at Steve's Brew Shop.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's I like it.
Yeah,
I think it tastes good.
It's quite strong.
Yeah. It's you can tell there's a bunch of alcohol in there,
and it's almost I think it's very whiskey like. It reminds me of drinking bourbon.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, and the kind of caramel notes mimics sort of like a wood age.
Yeah,
I don't know that unless the wood comes from the actual sticks.
That's what I wondered.
That were in the mead. And this is a kind of a blind tasting for us because I haven't talked to Bruce yet, so I don't know the details on the methodology and how this differs from a year ago.
So let me understand this better. You say the sticks are in it. I'm envisioning like when you harvest the honey, that you just like throw the sticks.
It's the mead is like a. I can't remember, like a wildflower honey. So that's separate. Then you have to special order these leaves and then their actual sticks. They almost look kind of like cinnamon sticks almost.
Oh, okay.
But they're sticks. They're not like curled bark. But it's actual twigs from, and they're separate. He sent a picture of a bag of the leaves and a big bag of the sticks.
Okay, so it's like it's a brewing adjunct.
Right. That's soaked in the fermented mead.
Okay, so kind of like more normally for us, like using bitter orange peel and grains of paradise,
or cinnamon, or cloves, or whatever else you want to steep in there.
Okay, so what I was curious about was, are the sticks and the shiny buckhorn leaf? I don't know. That just sounds like a wrestler. Is this a traditional? I mean, are we mimicking an
Ethiopian mead? Yes.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
It's tasty though.
Yeah.
Like you say, I don't get much of a hop character or, and I've never been exposed to the shiny buckhorn plant, so I don't know.
I'm a little worried about later on tonight.
Well, we're just sipping a little. It might have restorative properties. We don't know.
That's true. I haven't been under the weather. Well, it is quite good. I think it could be a little oxidized, and so
but not in a bad way.
No.
Sometimes it's good.
No, I'd pay $1 for that.
Well, all right, Steve, I'm going to put my mask back on, and we're like 15 feet away. We have our own microphone.
At least 15. More than that. We're in different rooms.
That's right, literally.
Yeah.
So I'm going to quit polluting your airspace here, and
Okay.
I'm going to let you get back to work. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So there you go, Bruce. Steve was just a little confused, but I think I think there's enough tasting notes in there to get an impression of what we thought. So I think it was clear to me that this is well made. You know, there are no defects. It's not like rocket fuel. You can tell it's high in alcohol, but it's not a harsh fusel alcohol. And we could tell that there's some age on it, in that it is, but it's not a bad age. It's not like a cardboardy, stale flavor. It's more of a kind of an oaky kind of character, and maybe that's why your friends, in the Scotch Club, maybe that's why they took to it.
That might be the case. I was going to include a recommendation for Steve to maybe make something that would potentially pair well as a food with the Tej, based upon what the patient that I told you had given me. She has started marketing different hot sauces, and they have a sort of a hint of cinnamon in them, and I think that's sort of I don't know for sure, but I think it's a characteristic of some of the Northern African foods. And so my thought was, hey, this would be a great pairing with something like a Cincinnati chili.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the cinnamony flavor and the potential heat in a hot sauce. And I'm looking forward, at least myself, to giving it a try with something like that.
Yeah, Steve's got a new smoker recently, a fancy one with an offset firebox and timers and thermostat. It's fancy. So he sends me pictures of these, like St. Louis style ribs, and Kansas City barbecue and such as that he's been just, it tears me up because I'm just down the road and I can't go eat with him, So, maybe a barbecue sauce made with the Tej or made with sugar or something like that. But so how has the flavor changed over the past year?
I just I did a tasting here right before we connected, and it's still it's not as crisp and clean as it was in that first tasting. But it was nice and crystal clear because everything has kind of settled out, and it has a different flavor, which I think is maybe more appealing to me.
You're right in that it doesn't taste like something with a gravity of 1030. It is cleaner and crisper in the way that it doesn't linger on your palate, and I just wonder if that's a function of the gesho. In there, the kind of bitterness that comes from that. It's not what I would have associated with like a hop bitterness, but it does have a little bit of a bite that kind of counteracts what we would have perceived as sweetness in that final gravity.
Well, and as I said earlier, that I didn't I hadn't stabilized it with anything, and I didn't use any finings in it, but when I look at it now, it is fairly nice and clear. Everything has kind of settled out, I think the flavor has improved over time, but in a different way than what I expected, and so. I think I had originally said, that I think they drink the Ethiopians drink this at festivals and parties and gatherings, but don't allow it to age very much. And maybe I'm wrong because I think it has aged fairly well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I'm not slowing down on drinking my little sample here. Yeah, I think it's. I'll take a picture of it and put it on the Instagrams and the Twitters and such. But yeah, I like it. It's not what I expected. Of course, I didn't know what to expect. But I expected kind of I don't know. I guess when I saw this big bag of leaves, I expected more of kind of like a vegetal flavor somehow. But what I'm getting is more. The honey does come through well, but then there's that little bit of a roundedness of kind of, and maybe is it do you think that the sticks, is that where this kind of oak character is coming from, or is that something that's just come with age?
Honestly, I don't know.
That's a good answer. That's an answer that should be used more often nowadays, but that's another thing. I think it's good. I applaud your effort into reaching out there and trying something, finding the ingredient and trying something completely new.
Well, as you probably are well aware, because you do this all the time, just fermenting and brewing is a fun thing, and we homebrewers, the reason we do it is because it's fun.
I'll second that. Well, Bruce, I appreciate your sending this to us. I appreciate your spending time talking about it, and I hope that you get to find some other fun things to brew.
I will check your podcast, and I'm sure you'll put me on it.
Thanks, Bruce.
All right. Thank you, James.
Well, thanks again to Bruce. I'm really grateful to be able to sample something like this that I might not have otherwise. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to James at basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. It's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dotson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. Talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.